Unfucking believable. I mean, I'm gone for 1 week. I'm gone for 1 fucking week, and the whole fashion world just goes to fucking Hey dudes, and welcome back to the Bants. As always, I am your host, the Bants. And it's the beginning of another week. It's another Monday. So it's time for another What's Happening in Fashion this week. So let's get right into it. And first up, we have our headlines for the day. And instead of our normal 2 headlines that we normally do every day, today we're only going to talk about one thing. Because really, news just came to light about one thing that only really matters, and that's who Louis Vuitton elected as their newest head designer of their menswear collection. And as if the news that I brought up last week about Chris Van Ash leaving Dior for Kim Jones wasn't bad enough, well, the person that's moving in for Kim Jones at Louis Vuitton is Virgil Abloh. Alright everybody, that's it. Pack it up. Fashion is dead. Let's call it a fucking day. But in all seriousness, let's actually put some time and some effort to talk about this. Because yes, I am definitely biased, because to nobody's surprise, I fucking hate Virgil. But we're gonna push all that aside just for a second. We're gonna take a couple deep breaths, and we're gonna talk about this as openly and non-objectively as possible. So let's get into it. Now, first off, is this a little bit of a surprise? Well, yes and no. Not because I don't think that Louis Vuitton wouldn't put Virgil in this position, but because they actually did. That's just kind of mind-blowing, even still thinking about it now. Now, do I think this is a good idea? Well, that entirely depends on what aspect you're asking about this from. From anything revolving around fashion, design, anything that Louis Vuitton really is? No, of course not. But from a marketing standpoint, from a hype standpoint, of course. And why is that? Because everybody's talking about it. It doesn't matter if you're a Virgil dick rider, if you're a Virgil hater, or if you're even just completely bipartisan to Virgil, which, there's probably somebody out there that doesn't love or hate Virgil. And God can only hope it's because they don't know who he is. Because God, I wish I could go back to those days. But aside from that, the point is that everybody's talking about it. So the hype is definitely there, and that's all that Louis Vuitton wanted out of this, and fuck, they definitely got it. But then that leads us to our next question, and that is, will Virgil be able to design his way out of I can't answer that fucking question. Of fucking course Virgil won't be able to design fucking successfully for this brand. He couldn't fucking design his way out of a fucking paper bag without putting quotation marks around it. I'm gonna give everybody just a quick little warning, because here's a little bit of a fucking rant incoming. This is what happens when people too loosely use the term streetwear, because this is not fucking streetwear. Louis Vuitton's menswear is not fucking streetwear. It never has been, it never will be. If you look back on the history of all the things that Kim Jones has done, whether it be for Louis Vuitton or prior, yes, he's done some streetwear. But if you look at everything that he's done at Louis Vuitton, it may have streetwear influence, but it's still not fucking streetwear. It's mainly menswear. There's a little bit of Americana here and there. It's mainly contemporary, and it might be streetwear influenced, but it's not fucking streetwear. Period. End of story. The end. Done. And as much as I really detest luxury streetwear, aside from the fact that it's an oxymoron of itself and what it's become, it's not either thing. It's not streetwear. It's not luxury wear. It's just the bastard child of trying to be both. That's really what it is. And it really fucking doesn't matter what luxury streetwear designer you choose. Whether it's Virgil Abloh, Chris Stamps, Rob Garcia, throw any of them into Louis Vuitton, they'd all fucking fail. Because they don't have the experience and the designs to back it up. Because just because people have been calling Louis Vuitton menswear streetwear doesn't mean it is, and every single one of those guys would get totally blindsided going into it. Just I'm stumbling over my words, and I can't fucking help it. I'm that fucking angry. Even shelving all the fashion criticism for just a second, I do have to say one other thing that's come out of this that has really, really fucking annoyed me is this idea that a lot of people in the black community are saying that this is a win for them. And in all honesty, it really fucking isn't. Now, I'm not saying that there doesn't need to be more black designers out there. There definitely should be, but there are some really, really fucking good ones out there already. You have Don Juan of PRPS, you have Ouija of Brooklyn Circus, you have Shane Oliver of Hood by Air, and you even have guys that are part of other duos like the duo at Public School, the duo of Abazi Rosborough. There are definitely some really good people out there. And even in the luxury house scene, there weren't many, but you have Oswald when he worked at Givenchy, and you have Oliver now working at Balmain. And although personally I'm not for either of those styles because I don't really like either of those fashion houses, they've been there and they've done it. But do you know what the one thing that's common about all these guys that are doing that and have actually succeeded in what they're doing is they actually fucking worked for it. They did the time, they did the design, they didn't have any come-ups, they didn't have any backdoor handshakes, they didn't ride any fucking coattails. And that's exactly what fucking Virgil did. He isn't teaching young black designers or people that are interested in fashion that with a little bit of hard work and effort and luck that you can make it to a luxury fashion house. No, what he's telling you is become friends with an influential rapper, make really shitty fucking clothing, put really shitty fucking clothing on influential rapper, and make money and fame because of it. And that's about as lazy as you can fucking get in design and fashion, and it's really fucking sickening that people look up to him the way they do because of it. Because when it really, really comes down to it in the end, you can talk as much as you want, as you can just vomit words at me about all the praise and all the dick sucking that you have for Virgil. But you know what it really comes down to in the end? Virgil would not even fucking exist if it wasn't for Kanye. End of story. Case fucking closed. I think when it really comes down to it, the guys at Style Zeitgeist put it best, and that's Virgil's new appointment is a win for marketing hype over design. Now, really the only question that remains is, will this put a blemish on Louis Vuitton's record? And after a couple years and all the hype dies down and he really doesn't fucking deliver what he can to the people that have been buying Louis Vuitton for years, will it cause a drastic drop? Or will they have made enough money in these next couple years to claw their way through a couple of downturn years after that? And that is something that only time will tell at this point. Now, obviously, all of this is just my opinion, and obviously I'm a little bit biased on things, but that's because I really do care about fashion as a whole, and I guess we'll just see where it goes from here. And if you guys want to read a little bit more about what other people have been thinking about in the industry, in the description down below, along with the actual article, I've included a lot of other opinion pieces as well, if you're interested in that sort of thing. But now with all of that out of the way, let's move on to our art stories for the day. And first up, Highsnobiety put up a nice little gallery of photos of some of their favorite pieces from Art Basel in Hong Kong going on right now. So if you're interested in seeing some of those, I definitely check that out. Then street art legend himself, Banksy, has returned to New York and has had murals and other small pieces popping up all over the place. So I've included a nice little list of some of his newest pieces, so be on the lookout for some of those, and if you're interested, I definitely take a look. Then going back to Art Basel now, Jeff Koons has released some new prints of some of his more recent works, and although they are a little bit more on the expensive end, they don't even come close to the price of the actual pieces themselves. So if you're interested in possibly seeing some of those prints and some of Jeff Koons' new work, definitely worth a look. And lastly, in honor of Air Max Day, which just recently passed, artist Smoluk just designed some very interesting sculptures of Air Maxes, and these are really cool because they use different mediums, although the main base for a lot of these is cardboard and a lot of other just, pieces of paper and what would otherwise be considered trash in a normal day-to-day scene. So if you're interested in some kind of different sculptures, or maybe you're just a sneakerhead and enjoy art, definitely worth a look as well. All right, and then moving on now into fashion, Dickies just showed off their newest collaboration, this time with legendary skateboarder Gonzales, and I think it's pretty decent overall. Now, first off, obviously the Gonz's art really isn't for everybody. It's definitely more for the lighthearted, the more anti-establishment, definitely for the skater, no doubt, and the graffiti artist, and anybody along those lines. And even though it doesn't really feel necessary or natural on Dickies pieces, I think these pieces are very nice. I think they're very fun and playful and lighthearted, even for being as kind of fuck you as they are. But once again, that's the Gonz pretty much in a nutshell. So if that's your sort of thing, and if you've never seen any of the Gonz's artwork before, definitely worth a look, and I would say even definitely worth a buy if it's up your alley. Then Junya Watanabe showed off some of his newest pieces from his newest man collection, and as per usual, they're just fucking fantastic. In all honesty, there really isn't much new here. I mean, there's more new North Face collaborative pieces, and then more of his signature stuff, whether that be patchwork or otherwise. And even though it isn't exactly the same, as you know, nothing's ever exactly the same in fashion, it is just a slight hair off of what he normally does. And it's not bad. It's definitely not bad. It's just fantastic, as I said. And one thing I gotta say is that he just is consistent when it's not on a runway. So thank fucking God for that. Then hat brand New Era showed off their newest EK collection, and all I gotta say is it's about fucking time. For you, those of you that don't know what the EK collection is, let me break it down real quick. So obviously New Era, that shouldn't be surprising of a name if you've ever been a fan of hats, especially ball caps, because God knows that's all they're fucking known for nowadays. But if you've ever been a fan of more hats that aren't caps, then you'd be surprised to know that New Era has been doing these for a while, but they've only really been releasing them out of the States, sometimes in Europe, but mainly in Japan. But now finally, fucking finally, because they've been doing these for fucking years, like at least a decade, we have them in the US. And this new collection is pretty strong. They have pretty much a myriad of anything you could think of in the hat variety. Yes, they still have caps, but they have unstructured ones this time. They have cadet caps, which, believe me, I own a couple of the Japanese ones, and they're really fucking nice. And then aside from that, they have some nice beanies, they have some bucket hats, which are very interesting. They have some types of fedoras, and overall, the colors are nice, the quality's there, the prices are on point. And if you do find yourself a fan of hats and are looking for something maybe a little bit different but still within a decent budget, definitely worth checking these out. Alright guys, and with that, finally let's move on to our articles for the day. And first up, Fashionista put out a very interesting article going over the argument that nowadays seasonal fashion is becoming obsolete. And they talk to a couple insiders in the industry and go over a little bit of the history and they kind of talk more about this idea about how designers are designing more for an aesthetic nowadays more than for a season. And overall, I think it's a very interesting concept, and if that idea kind of rings true to you, then I'd definitely give this article a look. Then Grail came out and put out a new couple history ofs, this time on two companies, the first one being the now relatively large skate company Dime, and the other one being everyone's favorite alternative shoe, the Doc Marten. So if either of those are interesting to you, I definitely give either of those a read. And lastly, Grail paid a visit to legendary classic menswear boutique, the Amoury NYC, and did an interview with some of the people there. So if you haven't ever been interested in men's classic wear, or maybe just want to know a little bit more about the shop in general, I definitely check out this interview as well. Alright guys, and with that, we've reached the end of our first whiff for the week. I hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, if you want to read a little bit more of the articles I talked about today, or see a couple more photos that I didn't include here, I've linked all the articles I talked about in the description down below. And I do want to apologize a little bit for today. I did not expect to monologue as much about Virgil and Louis Vuitton as I did, but I'm just very passionate about it, So sorry, not sorry, but I am looking to see what your guys' opinions are on it. At the very least, expect videos to be this long from now on, just not so much with a single monologue in them. And I do want to thank you guys as always for watching the videos on this channel and supporting my content. If you do have any questions, comments, concerns, or just want to talk fashion in general, feel free to hit me up in the comments down below, because I'm always willing to talk fashion. And with that, guys, thank you once again. I hope you have a good couple of days, and as always, until next time.